Good morning. Welcome to a special Thursday edition of our Women Wednesday Entrepreneur Series. I'm Brandy Stitt, the Program Director for the Women's Business Center in Kansas City. We are very excited to have all of you joining us today. For those new to our series, we have been hosting weekly webinars on a variety of topics that are relevant for small businesses and entrepreneurs, ranging anything from HR related topics, cash flow management, social media training, WBE, MBE certification, a wide variety of topics. And so if you are interested in any of our previous sessions, we have been recording all of our webinars and posting those videos onto the Women's Business Center's YouTube channel. You're welcome to revisit any of those sessions at any time. We are also recording today's session, and we will be posting that as well on our YouTube channel. So if, there's going to be a lot of great information shared today. So if you want to revisit that, it will be live on our YouTube channel, hopefully by tonight, to get you geared up for the upcoming deadlines for the Restaurant Relief Fund as you start preparing yourself to apply. So hopefully we will have that up later tonight, and I will share that link with you in our chat box. Speaking of chat, if you have questions throughout the session, please feel free to post those in either the chat or in the Q&A. So feel free to do that. And we will do our best to answer your questions throughout the duration of the presentation. And today, joining us to present on the Restaurant Relief Fund, to go over criteria, eligibility, and how to apply. Plus, they'll also discuss kind of the timing of when you'll need to get registered and to apply for the fund. We have a special guest from the Kansas City Small Business Administration District Office. Joining us today and presenting for us will be Jamilah Jones. She's the Outreach and Marketing Specialist for the district office, and assisting her is TJ Berry, who is our Deputy District Director. And so at this time, I'd like to go ahead and hand it over to Jamilah.
Thank you, Brandy, and thank you all that are attending today. TJ Berry will be assisting Brandy and along with myself with questions and answers as we go along in the chat. Okay, let me share my screen here. All right, the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. What is it? The American Rescue Plan Act, known as also ARPA, became public law on March 11, 2021 and established the RRF. ARPA appropriated $28.6 billion for RRF, authorizing SBA to award funds. The appropriations remained available until expedited. Funds must be used for eligible uses no later than March 11, 2023. Who is eligible? Eligible entities are businesses that are not permanently closed and include businesses where the public or patrons assemble for the primary purpose of being served food or drink. This includes restaurants, food stands, food trucks, food carts, caterers, bars, saloons, lounges, taverns, snack and non-alcoholic beverage bars, bakeries, brew pubs, tasting rooms, tap rooms, breweries or microbreweries, wineries and distilleries, inns, licensed facilities or premises of a beverage alcohol producer where the public may taste, sample, or purchase products. Other similar places of business in which the public or patrons assemble for the primary purpose of being served food or drink. All entities listed above that do not have an asterisk are presumed to have greater than 33% on site in 2019 food and beverage sales. Who is ineligible? Entities that are ineligible if any of the following apply. The entity is a state or local government operated business. As of March 13, 2020, owns or operates more than 20 locations regardless of whether those locations do business under the same or different names or are in different industries, has a pending application for or has received a shuttered venue operators grant, is a publicly traded company, is permanently closed, is a nonprofit organization, is not eligible for funding of at least $1,000. How much are you eligible for? SBA may provide funding up to $5 million per location, not to exceed $10 million total for the applicant or any affiliated businesses. The minimum award is $1,000. How does this program differ from other SBA programs? Applicants do not need to be registered in sam.gov, and SBA will not require a DUN or CAGE identifier. Valid unexpired ITINs are acceptable. Who is eligible? Eligible applicants must be one of the following forms of organization: C corporations, S corporations, partnerships, limited liability companies, sole proprietors, self-employed individuals, independent contractors, tribal businesses, LLC taxes. S corporations are sole proprietors. B corporations are eligible, but they will select either C Corp or S Corp on the application, depending on how they are taxed. But you need to refer to your tax return to see self-employed versus sole proprietor distinction. Who is eligible? Franchises. Any business concern operating as a franchise and meeting all other program requirements is eligible. The franchise must be listed on the SBA franchise directory. In the application portal, applicants will be able to look up their entity on the SBA franchise directory. For brands not listed on the directory, including brands that have previously been denied listing on the directory because of affiliation issues, the franchisor must submit the franchise disclosure document and all other documents a franchisee is required to sign to franchise@sba.gov for review of SBA's other eligible criteria. Who is eligible? Bankruptcy. Applicants that are operating under an approved plan of reorganization under either a Chapter 11, Chapter 12, or Chapter 13 bankruptcy meet all program requirements, are eligible for funding. An applicant is not eligible if it has permanently closed, as mentioned before, filed a Chapter 7 liquidation bankruptcy, or either filed for a Chapter 7, Chapter 11, Chapter 12, and 13 bankruptcy, but is not under an approved plan of reorganization. Permanently closed does not include businesses who temporarily close their doors due to the state or local restrictions or other pandemic causes, but are still in operation or have reopened. We're going to pause there. Do we have any questions right now?
We do not.
Thank you, TJ. How do other SBA relief programs impact RRF? Paycheck Protection Program, PPP loans. Any funds already received through Paycheck Protection Program will be subtracted from the applicant's final funding amount. The applicant is verified using the EIN, ITIN, or Social Security number associated with this PPP loans. If the applicant received a PPP loan, the applicant must use the same EIN number for its RRF application as it is used in its PPP application. If an applicant applied for a first draw PPP loan for multiple locations under one EIN, subsequently applied for a second draw PPP loan under a different EIN, the applicant must provide the EINs for each entities that received the second draw PPP loans. Upon applying for RRF, applicant must withdraw any outstanding PPP application. The applicant must not have a pending application for or have a shuttered venue operator grant from the SBA. Other attestations by the applicant. All applicants must certify that current economic uncertainties make the funding request necessary to support ongoing or anticipated operations. What are the eligible uses of funds? They can be used for business expenses, construction expenses, and business debt. Business expenses consist of business payroll costs, business utility payments, business maintenance expenses, business supplies, business food and beverage expenses, covered supplier costs, business operating expenses such as insurance, marketing fees, licenses, legal, POS equipment, etc. Construction of outdoor seating, expansion costs are ineligible. For business debt, payments on any business mortgage obligation. This does not include any prepayment or principal or interest. And also business debt service, both principal and interest. When do you have to use the funds? The funds must be spent on expenses that were and are accrued between February 15, 2020 and March 11, 2023. If the business permanently closes after receiving funds, the covered period will end when the business permanently closed on March 11, 2023, whichever occurs sooner. Any funds not spent on eligible expenses by the time the covered period ends must be returned to the government.
Jamilah, we have a question.
Yes.
We have a question
Yes.
on this exact topic. So it's a good time to just break in and just talk about it. So let's say that you had a restaurant that closed last summer for 2 months because of the government, and then has been reopened. Those expenses from that point forward, you could be using as your covered expenses. So it also can be from today forward. Let's say that you apply for an RRF and you just accumulate your expenses that would be used for offset by the 2023 date.
Perfect. Any more questions, TJ?
No, that's the only one at this time.
Thank you. So when do you have to use the funds? Again, use of the funds assessment after the total award funds have been exhausted. Entities must provide a detailed expenditure report or certification for the required period. Until applicant completes the use of funds assessment beginning December 2021, applicants are required to provide self-reporting unaudited data detailing use of distributed funds each year through 2023. SBA will provide additional guidance that outlines the detailed reporting requirements and procedures in the upcoming weeks. There are 3 calculations total, but how do you calculate your potential fund amount? Calculation 1, applicants in operation prior to or on January 1st, 2019, you'll use your 2019 gross receipts minus 2020 gross receipts minus any PPP loan amounts that you may have been given. Calculation 2, applicants that began operations partially through 2019. Average 2019 monthly gross receipts times 12 minus 2020 gross receipts minus PPP loan amounts. Applicants that began operations partially in 2019 may choose to use calculation 2 or calculation 3. However, calculation 3 could require a longer processing time. Calculation 3, applicants that begin operations on or between January 1st, 2020 and March 10th, 2021, and applicants not yet open but have incurred eligible expenses as of March 11, 2021. The total amount spent on eligible expenses between February 15, 2020 and March 11, 2021 minus 2020 and 2021 gross receipts minus PPP loan amounts. Applicants that began operations partially in 2019 may choose to use calculation 2 or calculation 3. However, calculation 3 could require, again, longer processing times. What can you exclude from your 2020 gross receipts? Do not include any of the following in 2020 gross receipts: Paycheck Protection Program loan, first draw PPP loan or second draw PPP loan received in 2020 and or 2021, SBA Section 1112 payments, SBA Economic Injury Disaster Loan, the EIDL loans, EIDL advance, Target EIDL advance, or any other grant funds received via CARES Act. Any state and local business grants, the Randolph-Shepard Act Financial Relief and Restoration payments, appropriations. So now the major question is, how do you apply? You will apply directly through the SBA platform at restaurants.sba.gov. You will go through a point of sale vendor. SBA is actively looking to partner with more POS providers. You will go through the telephone at 844-279-8898. Telephonic applications will have longer processing times. There's a whole call center that's pretty much set up to take inquiries on this fund. What documents do you need in order to apply? The application, SBA Form 3172, completed, initialed, and signed. Verification of tax information, IRS Form 4506T, completed and signed by the applicant. Gross receipt documentations, any of the following documents that demonstrating gross receipts and, if applicable, eligible expenses. That will include your business tax returns, IRS Form 1040, Schedule C. For a partnership, partnerships IRS Form 1065, bank statements, externally or internally prepared financial statements such as income statements or profit and loss statements, and point of sale reports, including IRS Form 1099K. What documents do you need in order to apply? Again, it's for calculations 1 and 2. What's required is application, tax verification, 2019 gross receipts, 3 months of bank statements, 2020 gross receipts, preferred federal tax returns filed, point of sale reports, accepted, may delay, review past 14 days, externally and internally prepared financial statements such as income statements or profit and loss statements signed, dated, and certified as to accuracy by the applicant. For calculation 3, what's required? The application, tax verification, 3 months of bank statements, 20 and 21 gross receipts, preferred your 2020 federal tax returns filed or 2020 federal tax returns, 2020 point of sales reports, 2021 point of sales reports, eligible expense documentation, at least one, and required appropriate supporting documentation for specific eligible expense types, preferred a CPA Comfort Letter, accompany the profit and loss balance sheet documentation, which pretty much helps with the faster SBA review, except it may delay review past 14 days, externally and internally prepared financial statements such as income statements or profit and loss statements signed, dated, and certified as to accuracy of the applicant.
Let's pause there for just a second, Jamilah.
Sure.
So let's go over the CPA Comfort Letter and what's that really mean? So if you are sending your documentation to a accountant for your, instead of just QuickBooks, but you're sending for your quarterlies to an accountant that's reviewing your books on a regular basis, it wouldn't be a bad idea to ask him to provide a letter saying that what it is, a comfort letter saying, I've reviewed the books and I believe everything to be in order. That will allow the SBA to have a third-party verification kind of thing and might speed up your application and get you the money quicker. It's not required, but it's something that you should have in the back of your mind if you do use an accountant to prepare your quarterlies and not just to file your tax return at the end of the year.
That is correct. And it's just basically endorsing what you have. Thank you. Thanks, TJ.
We have another question, and this is a great question. And it is, if we provide federal tax returns for calculation number 2, would the SBA also still like us to provide point of sales reports? The answer would be yes. The point of sales report, in fact, if you're using the correct point of sales or the approved point of sales companies, it might make your application process faster. And Jamilah is going to go over those companies. Thank you, Jamilah.
Yeah, sure. And when we talk about like point of sale vendors, we're talking about like a Square, a Toast, or a Aloha. Those are some of the SBA approved partnerships that are already in place. What documents do you need in order to apply? In addition to the documents on the prior slide, for applicants that are a brew pub, sorry, getting tongue tied there, tasting room, tap room, brewery, winery, distillery, or bakery. Documents evidencing that on-site sales to the public comprise at least 33%, which is the threshold of gross receipts for 2019, which may include tax and trade bureau forms, state or local forms filled or internally created reports from inventory management, sales, reporting, or accounting software. For businesses that open in 2020, the applicant's original business model should have contemplated on at least 33% of gross receipts and on-site sales to the public. For applicants that are an inn, such as maybe a motel or such, documents evidencing that on-site sales of food and beverage to the public comprise of at least 33% of gross receipts for 2019. For businesses that opened in 2020, the applicant's original business model of gross receipts and on-site sales of food and beverage to the public. How do you get help applying? Again, there's a call center pretty much set up for this fund. That number is 1-844-279-8898. All inquiries requiring maybe the documents that you need, or if you need additional help when applying, this is the phone number to call. You can also call our local SBA district offices, and they have help available in multiple languages for this fund. So they have pretty much every language available. Again, they have all kinds of ways that they can assist you. For best practices, please provide completed documentation, leverage your resources, application corrections. SBA is not able to make corrections on behalf of the applicants. Applicants who require corrections will need to contact the call center hotline at 844-279-8898. Applicants who still intend to apply for the PPP, RRF applicants are advised to complete their PPP application in advance of the RRF application. When can you apply? The pilot period. This is important. The pilot period participants are randomly selected from existing PPP borrowers who self-identify as members of the RRF priority groups. Pilot participants will not receive funds until RRF is open to the public at application launch. The priority period, days 1 through 21. During the initial 21-day priority period, SBA will accept applications from all eligible applicants. Only applicants from small business owned by women, veterans, and socially and economically disadvantaged applicants will be funded during this period. So you guys pretty much have a heads up on that priority period, day 1 through 21. On day 22, all eligible applicants will be processed and funded until the program funds are exhausted. What are the priority groups? A small business concern that is at least 51% owned and the management and daily business operations of the applicant are controlled by one or more individuals who are women, veterans, socially and economically disadvantaged. Applicants must self-certify on the application that they meet eligibility requirements. For example, an applicant has 5 owners who each own 20% of the applicant of the company. I think that's a mistype, my apologies. 2 owners and veterans, and 1 owner is a socially and economically disadvantaged individual. SBA will consider this applicant to meet the requirement that at least 51% of the applicant is owned by a priority group. Socially disadvantaged individuals. These are the definitions. Are those who have been subjected to racial or ethnic prejudice or cultural biases because of their identity as a member of a group without regard to their individual qualities. Individuals who are members of the following groups are presumed to be socially disadvantaged: Black Americans, Hispanic Americans, Native Americans, Asian Pacific Americans, or subcontinent Asian Americans. Economically disadvantaged individuals and those socially disadvantaged individuals whose ability to compete in free enterprise system has been impaired due to diminished capital or credit opportunities as compared to others in the same business area who are not socially disadvantaged. Eligibility as a priority group applicant. Entity reorganization for purposes of qualification for the priority period will result in automatic disqualification of the award. Funding set-asides. $5 billion is set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipts of not more than 500,000. An additional $4 billion is set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipts from 500,000 to 1.5 million. An additional 5 million is set aside for applicants with 2019 gross receipts of not more than 50,000. SBA reserves the right to reallocate these funds at the discretion of the administrator. That concludes the presentation on our end. Please let us know if you have any questions or questions, and we can either answer them via chat, or you guys can either call the call center. TJ, actually, can we put that in the chat? Call center phone number?
We can put that in there, not a problem.
And also to the SBA funding program site for the Restaurant Revitalization Fund. Can we put that in the chat as well?
We can.
Thank you.
I would add, there's a lot of great information on the SBA.gov website. There's a program guide that's there. There's frequently asked questions. There's also sample application if you want to go ahead and download that and start filling out the application just on your own prior to going into the site, to the portal to fill out your application. That would be really beneficial for you to expedite the application process. You know, I definitely would recommend having all of those documents ready to go before you start the online application process, so that you can really streamline your submission. I would anticipate that there's going to be a significant amount of traffic and activity on that portal once it opens up on May 3rd. So I would say this: the more you have prepared in advance of that, the better.
We did have a question just come in, and it says, we've seen notes indicating a need to register on the online portal. What is required with that? Really, the registration, the application you've received in this program, that's the information that you will need. So you can either go to the restaurants.sba.gov and start the application and go ahead and go through the process.
I agree with that, and I highly recommend, like everyone has mentioned, Brandy and TJ, definitely going to the website to be prepared. These funds will exhaust quickly, so you guys definitely want to be ahead of the game, and definitely work with your tax professionals to see what's best for you.
So it's not really a pre-registration. It is a pre-getting the work all done and ready to file. Okay, so that you have the application all set up. It's all within the system. When the date hits that you are able to apply, it's all there. You then finish the process and apply.
And again,
Well,
that portal will open tomorrow at 9 a.m. And then applications will be open on Monday, May 3rd at noon. And that's Eastern Standard Time.
Any other questions? Brandy, you want to close us up?
I will. Yeah. Thank you, TJ and Jamilah, for this information. And thank you to everyone who joined us today. This was really helpful for me. And I'm sure it's going to help all of you streamline your application process and know how to calculate your amount as well. So thanks again. As I mentioned, we recorded this session. We will be posting it on our YouTube channel, which I shared in the chat earlier. So certainly feel free to revisit this session later if you feel like you just need a refresher. And also share it with other people that you know that may benefit from this presentation. I know that you're all well connected probably in the Kansas City market and know other individuals that may be interested in applying for the RRF. So certainly feel free to share the link to our YouTube channel. Thanks again, TJ and Jamilah, and thank you to everyone. And I hope you all have a great day.